You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor, subscribe to the channel, leave your comments below, and be sure to smash that like button. If you missed it earlier today, Matt McMahon met with reporters and gave a little bit of an update on Tre'Dez Green, who's played 6 games with the LSU basketball team, and apparently his time with the basketball team for now is up.
Tre'Dez, the academic workload is very heavy, so he's going to be focusing on those academics for the time being, and I'll rejoin us at a later date.
So Tre'Dez Green leaving the basketball team temporarily. Matt McMahon said he'll rejoin us at a later date. So a few things here. If Tre'Dez Green wants to play 2 sports, awesome. Wish him the best. Good luck to him. Hope he nails it. And look, I had a conversation with Tre'Dez last spring, and he told me, and I know he said this other places, but basketball is his first true love. And that's awesome. And he is gifted enough to be able to play collegiate basketball. Through my lens, I'm looking at this okay, if Tre'Dez Green wants to play basketball, great. He's capable. If McMahon and Brian Kelly are both willing to let him do both and they can manage it and he can pull the workload and handle school and everything, awesome. I'm fired up for him to be able to do both. It's been a rarity that we've seen athletes do both at LSU. We've seen multiple sport athletes, but a lot of times it's like football and track. We've seen some football, baseball. It's been seldom that we've seen football, basketball. Marcus Spears did it for about a day, as he tells it. He went into conditioning for basketball. I was like, this ain't it, fam. It's just rare. It's rare that we see that. But I'll say again now what I said whenever Tre'Dez went out for basketball, and it's that when you're a 6'7" forward, you're kind of just another guy. When you're a 6'7" tight end who flexes out with the athletic ability that guy has, you're a freak show. You're a mismatch. When a 5'11" nickelback or linebacker tries to guard you in the slot, that's a problem. And that's why, even in limited action this year in football, he was a mismatch. In the red zone, first downs, the bowl game, he caught 2 touchdown passes. The long-term ceiling for Tre'Dez in football is exponentially higher than it is in basketball. So if he wants to do both, awesome. But you're going to get to a point eventually where one of those sports tells you this ain't it. And listen, there have been guys like Julius Peppers, who was an awesome basketball player in North Carolina, but became a Hall of Fame defensive end, right? Jimmy Graham was a pretty good basketball player at Miami, started playing football in college, became a 3rd-round pick, and was on a Hall of Fame trajectory before the Saints traded him. We know where that went. Antonio Gates was Tony Gonzalez. Talking about guys that were basketball players that became tight ends and became Hall of Famers. I'm not telling you that Tre'Dez is going to be a Hall of Famer. What I'm telling you is the ceiling for football is higher. I don't think that's a surprise to him, which is why this news today, my hope is this leads Tre'Dez to have a full spring practice. That's what I want to see mostly. Because for a guy that didn't start playing football until his junior year of high school, this is a guy that still has so much growth ahead of him in football. When you start looking at spring football, and by the way the schedule worked out, if Tre'Dez had stayed with basketball for the rest of the season, through the SEC tournament, he likely would have missed the first week of spring. So he still would have been there for the bulk of spring drills. But I look at it and say, man, he needs every rep, every opportunity. There are guys that don't need spring. Garrett Nussmeier does not need spring. Maybe timing with his receivers, but Garrett doesn't need spring. Whit Weeks doesn't need spring. He had the injury in the bowl game. If Whit Weeks doesn't sniff the McClendon practice facility for spring, fine. Just be ready to go when you play Clemson in the opener, right? There are guys that don't need it. The guys that desperately need it are guys that are going to be taking on a new role, an increased expectation, trying to win a job. Like your offensive line, they desperately need spring. You're losing 4 starters. The one guy returning, DJ Chester, is moving positions. You got Braylon Moore coming in. You got Josh Thompson coming in. Tyree Adams, Weston Davis trying to win starting jobs at the tackle spots. They need every rep, every opportunity, every opportunity to get better. They need it. They needed the bowl practices. They need every spring practice. And I put Trey'Dez in that group as well. I mean, you're losing the greatest pass-catching tight end in the history of the program in Mason Taylor.
Mason Taylor!
You brought in 2 transfers, which we know. Donovan Green, Bauer Sharp. And then Trey'Dez is physically and functionally different than those 2 guys. His skill set is different. And you got a new tight ends coach in Alex Atkins. Working on blocking, schemes, terminology, routes, all the stuff is a continued evolution. So I don't want Trey'Dez to miss a week of spring football. And I'm not saying, by the way, that the reason he's leaving basketball right now is because of football. I think it's naive to think that doesn't play into it. Matt McMahon said, the academic load's been a lot. I'm sure it is. I'm certain it is. He's a freshman in college who went straight from football to basketball. That's balancing a lot. I'm sure there's truth to that. And I'm sure that if LSU were a top 10 team in the country in basketball and Trey'Dez was playing 15 minutes a night, he'd still be on the team. But he's not playing a lot of minutes. He's played in 6 games. And he has a critical, I think, spring ahead of him for football. So if stepping away from basketball now allows him to focus on academics and get ready for spring practice, which is the reason that he's on scholarship at LSU, I think that is the right thing to do. Anyway, Cobble just texted me that he put out McMahon's full answer on Trey'Dez. Here, can we play this? This is 32 seconds. Can we play this full thing, if we can?
The thing have been really impressed with Trey'Dez to come in the middle of the year and not know any terminology, any ball screen coverage, side out of bounds under. I can go down all the list of things that he's been learning in short order. I think it's a lot on his plate, and has a heavy academic workload this semester. So I think it, in collaboration with Coach Kelly, it's just the best thing for him right now to put his attention there and lock in on the academic side.
Okay, good. By the way, I know that if you're listening digitally, you didn't hear any of that because it was in mono instead of stereo, which was one channel. So if you're on YouTube or streaming, you didn't hear that. I apologize. Our radio audience heard that. Come on, Cobble, do better. Like, he's a media guy. Like, put it out there in stereo, not mono. Come on, you know better. Anyway, but thank you for the soundbite, Cobble. So it gives you a little more context there from Matt McMahon. So anyway, Tre'Dez Green will be focusing on. Cobble just texted me your face when you saw it was mono, like live. I'm like, yeah, man, like you got to know better. Come on, Cobble. Anyway, but I appreciate the heads up on the soundbite. But come on. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.